now to a very, very important story. We'll be looking at safety, particularly during the festive season. There's a very, very growing trend in the country, especially in the Gauteng Joburg region, where kidnappings have been surging lately by nearly 16% in the first quarter of 2025, even as overall murders and some serious crimes have reportedly dropped. Streets, malls, homes, no place seems to be off the radar. And this isn't just, core statistics. There's families, there's, commuters, holiday goers, many who will be walking into malls, shopping centers, and traveling between cities in the coming weeks. And the looming question is, how secure are we really? And what can we do on our end to make sure that we remain vigilant? We look at those telltale signs that could give us insight on whether or not the places that we are and our surroundings are indeed safe, not just for ourselves, but for our families also. And we'll be speaking to Dr. Reza Patel, the member of the executive of the Gauteng Provincial Community Police Board and head of the Civilian Crime Intelligence Network, to help us examine what's behind the rise in kidnappings and how can residents, you and myself, try and stay safe this festive season. Dr. Patel, thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate you giving us your time.
An absolute pleasure. If I refer to what you're talking about, specifically kidnappings, I think the big thing here would be that we must understand we can't entirely avoid it. So what we can do is we can apply mitigating approaches in order to reduce the likelihood of a kidnapping. So in this likelihood here, especially now with the festive season, especially with people with their vigilance down, we need to take heed to the following. One, there is no area that's safe, notwithstanding what you are told. Two, there is no person that you don't know who is a friend to you. So be very cautious, be very vigilant. In actual fact, if you're uncomfortable, make it known. Look at the people, look at their vehicle, look at the number plate, and make it known that you're observing them. You also need to bring to the attention of those around you that you don't know these people and they seem to be approaching you, etc. But I think more than that, we also need to look at ourselves and understand that in the bigger picture of things, a kidnapper wouldn't approach somebody who's wearing a cheaper pair of tackies, who's driving a little broken down car, etc. I think the big thing here is they look at high-end vehicles. So you've got two kinds of criminals. You've got the organized criminal, and then you've got the opportunistic criminal. So organized criminal come after you because they've already done a due diligence on you, or they've already profiled you, and this is what they want. They've seen the jewelry you wear, they've seen the vehicle that you drive, they've seen the house you live in possibly, or the hotel that you're emanating from, etc. So be very cautious about how you do these things. Now, you've got a situation where many a person don't have their vigilance up. So you've got to pick up your vigilance. Look around you. Observe who's observing you. And in return, the risk becomes mitigated. I think also the areas where we congregate, I think if we look at the topic, it's about public spaces too. And if we look at public spaces, it's the most dangerous arena. And I think in those arenas there, one has to make sure they apply elements of mitigation. I'll give you an example of this. You'll find some restaurants put on the wrist of little children, they put these tags. Those tags can read if a child is leaving the premises. In a similar way, adults too should have a tracking device of some sort in their person. It could be whether it's a tracking device, which is a little button, a tiny little gadget on their shirt, in their pocket, on their phone. One should have Track Me, etc. Not for those people who are doing the wrong things and are cheating on their wives, etc. But for those for those that genuinely take the threat of kidnapping seriously. And I think if anyone's listening that really truly values their family, values themselves and their lives, they would take the approach of ensuring that they physically arm themselves with every conceivable tracking device. So I think that the big thing here is that in order for us to find you, we need to know where you are. And that can be done in other ways too. And I'm not going to talk about that on your show. It can be done in many other ways, but it's very difficult, very expensive, very time consuming, whereas tracking devices work. The other thing is the type of clothing you wear. Um, many people wear dark clothes at night. There's nothing
mm,
wrong with it, but there's something wrong if it's an environment where you're going to be taken. So be
mm,
cautious about that. Also, the issue of substance abuse whilst out there. People become intoxicated, from a substance, be it drugs, be it alcohol, or some other medium. I've now been informed, and we have the entire prescription of the vape devices that now contain high levels of drug elements,
mm,
which are induced drugs, not drugs in the form just of marijuana, but the liquids that they're now, busy producing, equal to tick and those kinds of things. So one has to be cautious what the kids are taking. One has to be cautious what you're taking if you're an adult and you vape,
mm,
because people will come to you, be friendly. They'll invite you to a vape party, or they'll invite you to sit around and so on. You don't know what's gone into your drink. You don't know what's gone into the vape gadget. You don't know what's gone into the hubbly bubbly. So be careful of these things. These are things that are unnatural, and one shouldn't really consume them. For those that do take it as a leisure, be careful out there. Another
mm,
thing is that you shouldn't go to arenas where there's no lighting. You shouldn't go to arenas where it's isolated. So yes, I was young one day, and yes, I also, and I think you did too,
mm,
drive into a very cozy nook of the beachfront, or into the woods somewhere or something like that. We can't do that anymore.
mm,
The criminals are hunting people everywhere. If you notice that on highways, and this is also a warning to those motorists who are potential victims of hijackings, because they come from remote areas of the province to shopping areas or key areas. They travel on roads like the N12, the N14, the N3, etc. Except for the illegal blue light gangs, you've also got opportunistic criminals and organized
mm,
criminals who actually they prey on people on those highways. So they deliberately sabotage your driving by putting a boulder in the road or putting spikes on the road, etc. My people there at the N12 between Protea Garages and Golden Highway are trying to mitigate as much as they can in terms of risk, but it's just when the vehicle turns around to go the other way, then rocks are thrown on the road. So one has to be careful. This is all hijacking, robbery, aggravated robbery type of approaches. So it sounds morbid, but if you sharp enough, if you hone your skills, if you apply common logic and say, okay, but this area that I'm in here doesn't have much lighting, you shouldn't be there. This area that I'm driving through doesn't have many police. It's not a known area. It's not a guarded area. Don't go there. And then the nightclub fraternity is a very bad one. It's a very serious one. We found that the West African nationals, like your
mm,
Nigerians and so on, they thrive in the nightclub industry where they drug females. They even drug males too. And what they're doing is, it's not just about holding them hostage and demanding monies from the parents. It's harvesting their organs. So it's a
mm,
serious issue. It sounds dreaded, but it's actually a fact. The next morning when you wake up, you thought you were with a gorgeous blonde or with somebody really good. In the meanwhile, you wake up with a hole in your side or in your stomach or in your chest. And sometimes people don't wake up. So we should be vigilance up, tracking on person, avoid nasty and ugly areas, get to know the crime patterns in the area that you're in, put yourself onto a group for that area. I'm quite certain that if you visit Umhlanga or here in the south where I am at the moment, there are groups. I've put myself onto those groups to know what's
mm,
going on in the neighborhood, to alert the people in the area. You may have, firearms. You may think that you're bold enough. The truth is that when you get pointed with a firearm, you're nothing but a statistic about to happen. So I think that people should acquaint themselves with their surroundings. They should involve themselves in groups on those areas, even if you're going on holiday, even if you're just visiting there for a week or two, etc. Do that. And for those that are not going on holiday, please join your local crime fighting initiative. So on that one, I tell you, you'll get all the information about rocks thrown in windows and hijacking attempts and all those kinds of things. So in short, about hijackings and about kidnappings, the only way that can happen is if you become vulnerable.
Mm,
Always have some sort of activation tool. Always, we've got devices, for example, where it doesn't need to be activated. We can hear that you're in distress. We can listen into your conversation, but that's only with permission when we see that you're not on the route that you're supposed to go through. So I know some of your tracking companies also have a device on their tracking which tells them this is not the route the person normally travels. This is also a hotspot area. Have those things working, test them, check with your tracking companies because it's all included in the fees that you actually pay. I hope I've helped with some advice here. I don't know if there are other questions.
no, most definitely. And this, I think you covered most of the bases. But I just had one last question, especially for those that are in the Gauteng region. Which areas or times of days have become the hotspots for kidnappings and violent crimes in the province, especially as we head to the festive season? Are there any particular precincts or shopping centers, or as you mentioned, some transit routes that are especially at risk?
Yes. When you talk about shopping malls, all of them are a danger area, but they're also a good area. In other words, it depends on who you are, how you dress, what vehicle you're driving, how much of bling you're showing, what kind of money you're throwing, and where you're eating at, etc. Those are all profiling aspects for robbers and hijackers and kidnappers. But having said that, even the mall industry have gone to the point of having artificial intelligence. They've now deployed more monitoring. They also follow suspicious people, etc., in their mall. So they're doing what they can in order to mitigate on their part. But the minute you leave that door of the mall, that's where the danger is, because outside of there, for those many blocks or how many streets, there aren't any. Then when it comes to highways, the N3 between Heidelberg and Joburg has
Mm,
become a haven of the blue light gang that was robbing. But now we noticed there's a few copycats that are there. Just be careful there. The N12 between the Protea garages at Soweto and Golden Highway is a danger zone. One has to be careful when traveling there. But my people from JML are patrolling and they're watching the area, etc. And then, of course, the N12 between Benoni and Delmas. There's a big issue there. People are hijacking trucks, robbing people coming to do shopping, especially those that are traveling. Don't travel at night, please, because that's when most of the drama besets the area. The N3 on both sides, heading to Joburg and returning to and going back to the coast before the toll. Val, I think it's Val one stop there at that area. These cars are actually hijacking anything and robbing anything. There's been a bit of a lull. We haven't received many reports there at the moment. But remember, everywhere is a likely arena for a crime to occur. So be
mm,
vigilant. Ensure that you have your tracking devices. Ensure that you carry your firearm and you know how to use it with your license, of course, and competency. Ensure that you travel in convoys. Don't travel alone. If you know people from Urgis are coming to Joburg, hook up with them. Create a group and say, look, who's going? Can we go together and can we come back together? Because the likelihood of one vehicle being ambushed is very strong. But when there's a convoy, the one can be ambushed. But if there are 4 or 5 other vehicles,
mm.
those criminals won't come out of their hole. So be sensible, be smart, and be safe. That's the big thing. And of course, in the Tshwane area and any other area, for example, it's very unfortunate when you look at our the hostels, informal settlements,
Mhm.
and the township areas, because that's where our bigger element of criminal thrives. And what they do is they come and hide in these areas. The people that live in those areas are not criminals.
mm,
but the criminal fraternity know that they can use those arenas in order to stage their criminal acts, and they can get away with it. So avoid those areas at all costs if you can. If you must and you don't have a choice, then let everyone know that you're going there, get a security company to assist you, etc. So we do have support in Gauteng. The Civilian Crime Intelligence Network has 22 command centers with artificial intelligence, it's got CCTV, it's got rapid response from there, etc. And we hook up heavily with the South African Police Service, the Metro Police, National Traffic Police, etc. And we've had great successes with this collaboration and the approach. And we actually ready for it. I mean, the N3 is a very big arena. We have a project there. It's called the N3 Patrol System. It's a JV between the One Track tracking company and Rick's Towing. So, and
mm,
that, links into us, and we have a support base there. Also, the N17 from Kinross and all those areas up to Tonk Meter, Tonk Meter at Brackpan there on that area.
mm,
There's been many episodes where there's been stoning, there's been spiking, etc. But we also have a patrol on that one, and we can assist there. So if anyone has a problem, reach out to your local CPF, which is the primary linkage. Reach out to your security company, which is mandatory. You need to do that because the amount of vehicles that a security company has far outweighs the total number of police vehicles in the country. So I
mm,
think that if we look at it in other words, on par, police station versus area and equal to number of security company vehicles, the support is there and we're ready for this onslaught. I think many of us are not going, well, I am on holiday at the moment, but I return. And from that time until next year, there's no break because this is the mad, silly season. And in this
mm,
season, anything is a target. You're wearing those headphones there. If you were doing so on the beach or even walking in the street where there's high risk, they'll come and rip it off you. They'll take
mm,
it from you. So don't do these things in areas where there's high risk. And I think that if you're going to go to areas, be careful of your gadgets. Many people like showing off their cell phones and their tablets and their, all these different things that are necessary. We use them. I use them,
mm,
but don't use them on the beach. Don't use them whilst walking past people who don't have them and are desperately looking to get a gift for Christmas. So I think, in short, if one can apply their minds just sensibly, but be careful of the arenas and hijackings and robberies. They will occur in areas where you'll be shocked. We put out warnings about certain areas, and then suddenly it occurs in an opposite environment. So I think there, just be careful, keep your vigilance up, and report crime.
mm,
People think that by not reporting crime, they don't want to get involved, and send a message to somebody. Tell them that something's going on there. At least the next person that comes past doesn't become a victim too, and it helps. The police need statistics. They need crime trends. They need patterns in order to deploy resources.
mm,
So if you're not
mm,
going to report those things, it's not going to happen in those areas, and you'll always complain. So I think, in
mm.
short, we're ready for the onslaught, but we also need to invite people to report crime.
Most definitely, and I think that's very, very important. Dr. Reza Patel, I'm going to let you go for now. Thank you so much for sharing those very, very important, I think, tips on some of these worrying trends and what people need to be watching out for, especially during this festive season. Really, really appreciate it.
An absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
There you
Bye.
go. And yeah, to our listeners, as you heard there from Dr. Patel, stay alert, stay informed, whether you're shopping, you're traveling, or visiting family. Always keep your guard up. I think, unfortunately, that's the state of the country we live in right now. You can't afford to relax, especially when you're with family, you're with small children. You need to always have your guard up, to travel smart, and most importantly, report anything suspicious that's happening. Otherwise, you heard the tips. Enjoy your holidays, man. But always, always have your guard up. Going to take a quick break. News and views will continue after this.